Some people can't tell if black people are black enough. Fortunately, there's Joe Biden.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community.
What did he just say?
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
I think the vice president misrepresented what the vice president wanted to say.
Hours later, Mr. Biden expressed regrets.
In a call with the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce this afternoon, Biden said he should not have been so cavalier.
The last thing I want to do, and I shouldn't have been such a wise guy. I shouldn't have been so cavalier in responding to what I thought was, anyway, it was, I don't take it for granted at all. And no one should have to vote for any party based on their race, their religion, their background.
No, you see, Joe is down with the cause. Just because you're black doesn't mean you're black if you're not really black. You know.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
This is from a website that collects stories from young people. This is from a young black teenager who was taunted as being an Oreo, as in brown on the outside, white on the inside. Gabby, why are you such an Oreo? One of the girls in my 8th grade class asked out of the blue. An Oreo is a term that is used to describe black people who act in ways that are not stereotypically associated with black culture. They are labeled as being white on the inside, black on the outside. I was a goody two-shoes and one of the highest achieving kids in the class, so other kids called me Oreo too. I enjoyed reading fantasy novels and Edgar Allan Poe. After I switched schools to one that was more diverse, I was never referred to as Oreo again. I think those girls called me an Oreo because they didn't know that the stereotypes of what black girls are like are far from the truth. There is no one way to be black. There is only one way to be yourself. And in the 8th grade, I had not realized that yet, end of quote. And some white people can't tell whether somebody's black or African American.
I think that she's got a lot of strengths here. She's got a bio, she's got a record, she's a prosecutor with a heart, she's had a lot to deal with keeping people out of recidivism.
Is she seen as African American? Is she seen as African American?
Is the organization that she pulls up? Yes, I think she's seen as African American. The fact she was at Howard University today, one of the oldest, they call themselves the oldest. I went to Morehouse, I think we're a little bit older. But she was at Howard University today when she did her announcement press conference. She's going to South Carolina in the first week.
Yes.
She is really planting her feet in the African American community. I think she's going to be a very strong candidate.
Went to Howard, so therefore she's black? Don't laugh. You know, you can go into Howard white and come out black. Ask Rachel Dolezal.
More new developments in the Rachel Dolezal case. Documents published online today show that she has a long history of claiming discrimination, but not always as an African American. In a case filed more than a decade ago, Dolezal said she was targeted not because she was black, but because she was white.
You've sent mixed signals over the years. Are you an African American woman?
I identify as black.
Now, this gentleman, also known as Joe Biden's old boss, also said there's no one way to be black. In fact, he was attacked for not being black enough by his former congressional House opponent, Bobby Rush, who's still in Congress as we speak. Obama said, when Congressman Rush and his allies attack me for going to Harvard and teaching at the University of Chicago, they are sending a signal to black kids that if you're well educated, somehow you're not keeping it real, end of quote.
Be confident in your blackness. One of the great changes that's occurred in our country since I was your age is the realization there's no one way to be black.
Oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, good.
He said that he's in great pain and he wants to know if you can help him.
All right. Would you tell him to just relax and I'll be back as soon as I can with some medicine?
Just hang loose, blood. She's gonna catch up on the rebound on the med side.
What it is, Big Mama? My mama didn't raise no dummies. I duck a rap.
Cut me some slack, Jack.
Say cutting the
Chump don't want to help. Chump don't get the help.
And some whites just hedge their bets, cover their bases.
This is the full exchange with the host, Charlemagne, who asked him about his record with African Americans and was pressing him on having a woman of color, an African American, as his running mate. Let's watch.
What? Did you catch that? Listen to it again.
This is the full exchange with the host, Charlemagne, who asked him about his record with African Americans and was pressing him on having a woman of color, an African American, as his running mate. Let's watch.
Did you see the graphic? So we have 2 African Americans and 1 woman of color. Fortunately, we also have Joe Biden.
Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
I mean, you'd have to ask Senator Biden what he was.
I mean, if you're white, what do? African American, people of color, black.
And saw a man run down the block.
Can you describe it?
Well, he was,
Yeah?
he was,
Black?
he happened to be black. I'm sorry. Next time it'll be white.
Maybe Chinese.
Fortunately, there's Joe Biden.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
I mean, some white people are just perplexed.
Joining me now to talk about this and the nation's real problem of joblessness, the Reverend Al Sharpton. What's your reaction to hearing someone say, when it comes to income inequality, all's well. The rising tide floats all boats.
I'm Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Right. I'm so sorry. The script in front of me said Reverend Al Sharpton. I'm looking at your face. I know who you are, Reverend Jackson. We all do. I'm sorry.
Fortunately, there's Joe Biden.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids. Not really neat, but think how we think about it.
And some people couldn't care less about racial political correctness.
Konnichiwa is Japanese. It's insulting to Koreans.
How am I supposed to tell if you can't?
What's that supposed to mean, white boy?
Means you got eyes like apostrophes. You dress white, talk black, and drive Jews. So how am I supposed to know what kind of zipperhead dog-munching dink you are if you don't?
Confused? Fortunately, there's Joe Biden.
Hey, Manish, how are you, man? Well, good to see you. As you know, I got a lot of support from you, Cindy.
That's where, and more to come, I think.
Yeah,
so.
No, I've had a great relationship. In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
I think the vice president misrepresented what the vice president wanted to say.
Even blacks don't know what to call blacks who think they are black, but are not necessarily perceived as being black by other blacks or by other African Americans.
Number one, what does black enough mean? Can someone give me a definition of what black enough is? I don't want to go down the road of the stereotype when people say we're black. Number one, she is a black woman. She's a mixed race woman. When you see her blackness, but she is also South Asian. Her mom is South Asian and her dad is Jamaican.
April, let me listen.
Yes.
More power to her. And I think it's great. That should be enough. Listen, it is enough that she's a black woman.
We are not a monolith.
No.
Exactly. But they did the same thing.
No. I think you're not hearing what people are saying. The people who are saying is she black enough, that's bull. That's BS. But to want a distinction to say is she African American, or is she black, or is she whatever. There is nothing wrong with that. There is a difference between being African American and being black. Latino people are people of color, but they're not black. They're brown people.
She is a woman of color, but she is a black woman.
Okay, that's why I agree with that. I agree with that. But is she African American? No. But is she African American? There is a difference. There's nothing wrong with that. No one is trying to take anything away from her.
Let's go down into her lineage.
I think you're falling into the trap of that. All she had to do was say, "I am black, but I'm not African American." That's it.
And then there's Joe Biden.
This election year, the choice is clear. One man stands ready to deliver change we desperately need. A man I'm proud to call my friend. A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
Some blacks don't want to be called African American, even though other blacks call them African American.
I love being black. I love being called black. I love being an American. I love being a black American.
And some whites, under certain circumstances, prefer to be black or African American, at least temporarily.
What are you doing?
I'm getting bad. Better get bad, Jack, because you ain't bad. You're going to get you bad. They don't mess with you. Yeah. Hey, home, get down. Hey. You're a little too bad, ain't you?
Fortunately, there's Joe Biden.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand, and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
I mean, you'd have to ask Senator Biden what he was.
Finally, who needs Joe, you ain't black Biden when we have Chris, don't call me Fredo, Cuomo? Remember what he said?
I thought that's who you were.
No, punk from the right call me Fredo. My name is Chris Cuomo. I'm an anchor on CNN. Fredo is from The Godfather. He was that weak brother.
Isn't that your brother?
And they use it as an Italian aspersion. Any of you Italian? Are you Italian? It's an insult to your people. It's an insult to your people. It's like the N-word for us.
Now, this daredevil has come up with an ingenious way to determine who is really black enough. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Rex Kramer, Danger Seeker. Fredo!
Hey, what the fuck?
Who needs Joe Biden? Now remember, my documentary Uncle Tom comes out on June 19th. Go to uncletom.com, check out 3 trailers. Here's one.
Most people are completely oblivious to the history of the Democratic Party.
The party of slavery.
The history of the Democratic Party.
Jim Crow laws.
They're erasing all of the history of this country.
They want to cover up history.
The real history, not the revisionist history.
If you are educated,
Black people have been taught
a narrative that has been created.
You're actually miseducated.
And that's when I realized I've been lied to.
I had been misled.
It unraveled everything that I knew to be true.
I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.